This young woman says she was attacked by Cesar Millan's dog and bitten so badly she had to give up her dream of being an Olympic gymnast.
It pretty much ended my career.
She says Millan's dog was in the office, unsupervised.
To millions of viewers, 55-year-old Cesar Millan looks like a man who has everything figured out. But behind that carefully maintained public image was a life marked by loss after loss. The man who rehabilitated thousands of troubled animals has faced troubles that no amount of calm energy could fix.
9,000 people have signed an online petition to have the show yanked.
And even today, the controversies and personal battles continue to increase. How did the world's most famous dog trainer become one of television's most tragic figures? This is the heartbreaking story of the man behind the whisper. The boy who left everything behind. Cesar sacrificed a lot to achieve his dreams, which is why his tragedy is so heartbreaking. Born on August 27, 1969, in Culiacan, Sinaloa, Mexico, he grew up on his grandfather's farm surrounded by animals. Even as a small child, he noticed something that set him apart from everyone else. Dogs responded to him differently. They calmed in his presence and listened when he gave commands. They seemed to understand him in a way that they didn't understand others. The obvious path forward would have been veterinary school, but his family simply couldn't afford it. So by the age of 10, Cesar had already chosen a harder route. He would get to Hollywood, where the best trainers worked, learn from the ground up, and become the best dog trainer in the world. It was the kind of dream that most people abandon as they grow older. Cesar never did. At 21, he crossed into the United States with exactly $100 in his pocket, spoke zero English, and didn't know a single person on the other side. The journey was brutal, dangerous, and uncertain. But it was a journey he had to make to chase a dream that had been burning inside him since childhood. What happened next was even harder. He took a job at a kennel just for a place to sleep. For 2 months, he ate out of dumpsters and lived on the streets before landing a position as a groomer and walker. He had gone from dreaming of Hollywood to scavenging for food in alleyways. The contrast between where he had been and where he was now couldn't have been more devastating. But Cesar refused to quit. He eventually built a dog-walking business in Inglewood, Los Angeles, and got so good at it that the Los Angeles Times ran a story about him. Word spread about a groomer whose instincts with dogs seemed almost supernatural. It was the first sign that his dream might not be as impossible as it seemed. Then came the break that changed everything. In his early Los Angeles years, while working as a limousine driver, Cesar was training a dog for a client when a 19-year-old named Jada Pinkett Smith watched him work. She had a feeling about him. But there was one glaring problem. Cesar still couldn't speak English, so the very next day, she sent a tutor to his apartment. He studied with that tutor every day for a full year, a debt he would publicly acknowledge years later. That dedication caught the attention of MPH Entertainment, a production company that saw what he was doing with celebrity dogs and built a pitch around it. On September 13, 2004, Dog Whisperer with Cesar Millan premiered on the National Geographic Channel. By season 2, the show had been expanded to an hour and moved to prime time. By season 6, 11 million Americans were watching weekly. The show became National Geographic's #1 program. The homeless immigrant who had once eaten from dumpsters and slept on the streets was now training dogs for the rich and famous, authoring best-selling books, launching product lines, and running a 45-acre ranch in Santa Clarita, California. He had achieved everything he had ever dreamed of. But success, as Cesar was about to discover, comes with a price that cannot be measured in dollars or viewers. The world turned against him. For years, researchers had been pulling apart the theory that dogs are pack animals constantly competing for alpha status, and that humans must establish dominance to maintain order. Even the original wolf studies that the dominance theory was based on turned out to have been conducted on captive wolves in artificial conditions, not natural wolf packs in the wild. When researchers observed wild wolf packs, they found that leadership was typically exercised by parent figures within family units, rather than through aggressive dominance over rivals. The whole scientific foundation of the alpha dog model, the critics said, was flawed from the start. However, this same dominance theory is what Cesar uses to handle the dogs. This was how the show worked. Cesar believed in a method called calm, assertive energy. According to him, dogs think in terms of a pack with a leader at the top. So when a dog behaves irrationally, it most likely means that the human in the household has failed to establish themselves as the pack leader. So to fill the leadership vacuum, the dog becomes dominant. Cesar's job was to walk into such home, become the assertive energy the dog needs, and then restore the natural order. But the debate quickly moved beyond academic journals. The American Humane Association went further in 2006, formally requesting that National Geographic pull the show entirely. They called the training methods inhumane, outdated, and improper. They argued that the show was sending viewers dangerously wrong messages about how to handle problem dog behavior. The American Veterinary Society of Animal Behavior formally rejected his techniques. He was described on the opinion pages of the New York Times as a one-man wrecking ball, directed at 40 years of progress in understanding and shaping dog behavior. Television interviews became increasingly confrontational. In 2012, on British television, host Alan Titchmarsh directly confronted Cesar, playing video footage that he said showed Cesar punching a dog in the throat. More than 1,000 people joined a Twitter campaign demanding his appearance be cancelled. The RSPCA issued a statement saying that adverse training techniques can cause pain and fear for dogs and may worsen their behavioral problems. Then came the lawsuits. In 2006, a television producer sued Cesar for animal cruelty after his Labrador retriever died following a treadmill session at Cesar's facility. The complaint charged Cesar with contract violation, animal cruelty, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. The specifics of the case were disputed, as they always are in legal proceedings, but the mere existence of a lawsuit gave the controversy a legal upper hand that academic criticism never had. In 2016, during Cesar 911, a dog named Simon bit a pig on set.
He spots a pig. Look out!
Leaving the animal bloodied. While Cesar was making sure Simon got used to a pig's company in a fenced yard, the dog bounded towards the pig and bit it around the ear, leaving the area bloodied. California animal cruelty investigators launched an inquiry. The investigation showed that the dog accidentally escaped Cesar's control, and people present immediately captured the dog, attended to the pig, and called in a veterinarian, who found no need for treatment. Though no charges were ultimately filed, the investigation itself was the kind of headline that follows a show's reputation for years, regardless of the outcome. The debate had become impossible for National Geographic to ignore. Advertisers monitor controversy. Networks monitor advertisers. And the consistency of professional organizations calling the show dangerous was creating a slow, compounding problem for the network. Whether viewers agreed with the critics or not, the controversy was damaging the show's brand. If the critics had been the only problem, Cesar probably could have weathered the storm. Unfortunately, the real tragedy was waiting for him at home: losing Daddy. In 1994, Cesar met a scared 4-month-old pit bull puppy belonging to rapper Redman. The dog was insecure and lacked trust in himself and the world around him. Cesar took him in, and over the next 10 years, that frightened young pit bull became Daddy, the most famous pit bull in the world. Daddy was Cesar's right-hand man, his true dog whisperer. When Cesar faced aggressive dogs that other trainers had given up on, he brought Daddy in. The aggressive dogs would calm in Daddy's presence. He could diffuse tension before it escalated into conflict. He served as a role model for an entire breed that was widely feared and misunderstood, and Cesar trusted Daddy with his hardest cases. According to Cesar, Daddy never made a mistake. He never displayed aggression or any other negative behavior. Then, without warning, tragedy struck when 10-year-old Daddy was diagnosed with cancer. As soon as Cesar found out, he made sure Daddy's treatment began immediately. Daddy underwent chemotherapy, the same brutal, exhausting treatment that humans endure. Cesar watched as his beloved companion went through the difficult process. Even though Daddy wasn't actually Cesar's, Cesar didn't walk away. Instead, he went to Redmond and asked to adopt Daddy permanently, taking full responsibility for a dog who might not survive. Of course, Redmond agreed. He had seen the bond between man and dog grow stronger with each passing year. So he gave his blessing for Daddy to be officially adopted by the Millan family. Thankfully, the chemotherapy was successful. Daddy recovered from the cancer and lived for another 6 years. But on February 19, 2010, at the age of 16, Daddy passed away peacefully, surrounded by his family. He had lived a long and full life, but that did not make the loss any easier. Cesar was devastated. Losing Daddy was, by Cesar's own account, like losing a piece of himself. The fans were devastated too. Daddy had appeared in more than 50 episodes of Dog Whisperer. He had been the reassuring presence that viewers had grown to love. His death was mourned by millions. But for Cesar, the grief was personal in a way that no one outside his inner circle could fully understand. Losing Daddy should have been the hardest moment of Cesar's life. And Cesar probably felt that way until 4 months later, when another pillar of his world collapsed. His marriage fell apart. In June 2010, just 4 months after Daddy's death, Cesar's wife of 16 years filed for divorce. In the middle of a very publicly unstable life, his marriage had been the stable center. Cesar Millan had been with Cesar through everything. The early years in Los Angeles when he was still building his reputation, the rise to fame, the controversies, the lawsuits. She had raised their 2 sons while Cesar worked hard to become famous. She had never sought the spotlight, but she had been essential to everything he had achieved. Then, on June 4, 2010, 16 years after building an empire together, Ilusion filed for divorce in Los Angeles court, citing irreconcilable differences. Legal documents showed she was seeking primary physical custody of the kids with visitation for Cesar, as well as spousal support. The divorce was finalized, and the details were settled privately. The irony was devastating. He had helped countless families rebuild trust with their dogs. He had saved marriages by fixing problem dogs, but he couldn't save his own marriage. When it ended, the ground came out from under him completely. Within months, Cesar had lost the companion who had stood beside him for 16 years. Before he had processed that grief, his marriage collapsed. Then came the depression that nearly cost him his life. It wasn't one tragedy that broke him. It was the speed at which they arrived. From the outside, he was still America's dog whisperer. Behind closed doors, he was fighting a battle that almost no one knew existed. Could he survive it? The darkest day. And then came the darkest moment of all. In May 2010, just weeks after his wife filed for divorce, Cesar Millan attempted to take his own life. He overdosed on pills and was found unconscious. He was rushed to a hospital. The man who had taught millions how to find balance had lost all of his. The details of the suicide attempt remain private, as they should be, but Cesar has spoken about it with the same directness he brings to everything. He told the Tampa Times that going through that experience changed how he understood the signs of depression, and that, as a father, he now watches for those signs in his sons and the people around him with an attention he would not have had before. He survived the overdose, declining medication in the aftermath. Instead, he chose to work through the depression the only way he knew how, through exercise, discipline, affection, and by throwing himself back into the work that had always given his life structure and meaning. But the damage had been done. The man who had spent 9 years on television teaching people to be the stable, calm leader that their animals needed could not find calm anywhere inside himself. What must it have been like for Cesar in those months? To wake up every morning and put on the calm, confident persona that the world expected, while inside he was drowning. It is almost impossible to imagine. But somehow, he kept going. He had 2 sons who needed him and a career that thousands of people depended on. Quitting wasn't an option, even when quitting felt like the only solution. However, while he was trying to heal, his career was changing forever. The show was ending too. While Cesar was fighting for his life, his television empire was also crumbling. The show that had made him a global superstar was running out of time. Dog Whisperer with Cesar Millan ran for 9 seasons and 175 episodes. It had been a ratings juggernaut, at its peak drawing 11 million weekly viewers. But by 2012, the ratings had been sliding. Not catastrophically. 11 million loyal viewers do not evaporate overnight, but enough to prompt the channel's leadership to have a conversation about whether the return justified the risk. Production costs had also increased over 9 seasons, which meant the show needed to perform at a high level just to break even, let alone justify renewal. The controversy never stopped. Instead, every season brought fresh coverage of the debate, and each fresh controversy made the show a less comfortable fit for a channel whose brand was built on scientific credibility and animal welfare. The cancellation came in September 2012. Cesar announced it on Facebook, telling fans that the final season would begin that July and that he was so thankful to all the fans who had embraced the show over the years. The statement said almost nothing about why the show was ending. But there was another factor that the network's statements never fully captured. Cesar himself had been ready to end the show long before the network was. He had become an international superstar. He wanted to take the next step in his career, with newer, bigger challenges that would take him worldwide. The show had been a gift, but it had also been a cage. Still, the timing couldn't have been worse. Losing the show on top of everything else felt like a punishment for a life that had already taken too many hits. Losing the show wasn't the end. But after everything he'd endured, had Cesar finally found peace? The pain never really ended. To his credit, Cesar Millan did not stay down. He refused to let the tragedies define him. He launched Leader of the Pack in early 2013, a 12-episode series filmed around the world. He returned to television in 2014 with Cesar 911 on Nat Geo Wild, a show focused on emergency interventions with dogs in what he called the red zone, animals whose behavior was dangerous enough that their owners were days away from surrendering them or putting them down. In 2021, he returned to National Geographic with Cesar Millan, Better Human, Better Dog. He launched a YouTube channel that accumulated over 1 million subscribers. He toured the world with Cesar Millan Live, a stage production consisting of 1/2 lecture and 1/2 demonstration with local shelter dogs. He fell in love again, proposing to a woman named Jahira Dar in Athens overlooking the Acropolis. But even now, at 55, the tragedies keep piling up. In 2021, a lawsuit filed by gymnast Lydia Mattis alleged that Junior, the dog Daddy had personally chosen as his successor, had attacked her in 2017, biting her legs and derailing her athletic career. The lawsuit also alleged that Junior had killed Queen Latifah's dog. Cesar's representative denied the accusations, calling them a blatant lie. Junior passed away at age 15 before the lawsuit was resolved. In early 2025, viral hoaxes spread claiming Cesar had been sentenced to life in prison for animal cruelty. The videos were completely false. Fact-checkers confirmed he was actively posting on Instagram and making public appearances at the time the hoax was spreading, but they spread like wildfire across social media. For a man who built his brand on trust, the mere existence of such rumors was devastating. And behind the scenes, reports indicate financial discrepancies and legal battles over intellectual property and business assets. Sources close to the couple suggest his marriage to Jahira Dar has been plagued by tension over finances and personal ambitions. Despite all of this, Cesar is still standing strong at 55. He is still relevant more than a decade after the cancellation that was supposed to end his television career. He has over 21 million social media followers. His shows continue to air, and his product lines continue to sell. So, after watching this, where do you stand? Is Cesar Millan a victim of his own success, whose genius was misunderstood? Or is he a man who built an empire on shaky foundations, whose personal life was always destined to crumble? Share your thoughts with us in the comment section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. And click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.